The Strait of Hormuz has always been a place where geography becomes destiny. A narrow ribbon of water squeezed between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula, carrying roughly a third of the world's seaborne oil through a channel so tight that ships practically brush shoulders with the coastline. For weeks before this night, that geography had turned into a pressure cooker. Diplomatic talks between Washington and Tehran had collapsed entirely. The maximum pressure sanctions campaign had strangled Iran's oil exports down to nothing, drained its foreign cash reserves, and left the regime with almost no allies willing to absorb the economic fallout of standing beside it. Tehran was cornered, and cornered regimes tend to gamble. Their gamble had a name: Operation Guardian of Hormuz. The idea was simple and brutal. If Iran couldn't win a conventional fight against the United States Navy, it could try to choke the one artery the entire global economy depended on. Tankers moving through the strait began receiving demands for what amounted to protection money, with open threats that any Western vessel ignoring the toll would be treated as a target. This was asymmetric warfare pushed to its logical extreme, an attempt to use hundreds of cheap spedboats, drones, and mines to threaten platforms worth hundreds of times more than the entire attacking force combined. Washington's answer was a single Arleigh Burke Flight 3 destroyer, a $2 billion warship built around the Spy-6 radar, a system capable of tracking hundreds of targets simultaneously, out to roughly 370 kilometers. But the real backbone of the American response wasn't visible from the water at all. 12,000 meters overhead, a Boeing P-8 Poseidon aircraft quietly orbited the strait, feeding a constantly updating tactical picture to the entire fleet through a shared data network. Iran believed that overwhelming numbers would eventually break through any single ship's defenses. What was about to unfold over the next 2 hours would test that theory in the most direct way possible. Just after 3 in the morning, the destroyer's radar screen erupted. Dozens of fast-moving contacts appeared from multiple directions almost simultaneously, closing in with the coordinated aggression of a planned ambush rather than a random skirmish. This was the opening move of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps' swarm attack. Dozens of fast attack boats racing to get within range of their 107mm rocket launchers. Inside the Combat Information Center, the tactical clock started counting down. 90 seconds until the first boats would be close enough to fire. There's something almost unsettling about watching a threat approach on a screen, knowing exactly how much time you have and not 1 second more. Anyone who has ever watched a countdown clock during an emergency knows that particular kind of tension, the way seconds seem to stretch and compress at the same time. The crew on that destroyer had no room for panic. Above them, the Poseidon had already dropped a string of specialized sonobuoys into the water, technology originally designed to hunt enemy submarines, now repurposed to pick up the acoustic signature of diesel engines cutting through the waves. Within about 4 minutes, the aircraft had built a complete picture of the battlefield. Every boat, every mobile rocket launcher, every hidden position along the cliffs of Keshem Island appearing as a marked point on the shared tactical display, transmitted instantly to every ship and aircraft in the area through the fleet's encrypted data link. The first shot fired that night didn't come from the destroyer at all. An MH-60 Romeo Seahawk helicopter, hovering well outside the range of Iranian machine guns, had already locked onto what its sensors identified as the swarm's command boat, roughly 8 kilometers out. 2 Hellfire missiles, each costing about $150,000, streaked across the dark water on laser guidance. The first tore into the lead boat's cabin. The second eliminated the vessel running beside it. In under 2 seconds, the swarm lost its field commander, and without centralized direction, the boats following in his wake began to scatter, losing the tight formation that had made them dangerous in the first place. Inside the combat center, nobody cheered. There was just the quiet, almost mechanical process of moving to the next target on the list. Tehran, though, hadn't shown its full hand yet. Hundreds of Ababil decoy drones launched from hidden positions along the coastal cliffs, carrying no warheads at all, only radar reflectors engineered to mimic the signature of a real anti-ship missile. Within moments, the 50 or so genuine threats on the destroyer's screen multiplied into more than 500 contacts. Most of them fake, all of them demanding attention. It's a strange kind of warfare, one where the goal isn't to destroy you directly, but to overload your ability to tell what's real. And it puts anyone in that command chair in an impossible position. If you were making the call in that moment, would you trust the system to sort fact from noise? Or would you order the ship to break away before the real threats close the distance? There's no clean answer, and that's exactly what Iran was counting on. At the same time, Fajr 5 rocket launchers hidden in the cliffs opened fire, but not at the ship itself. They fired around 120 rockets into the water in a deliberate pattern surrounding the destroyer, each impact throwing up a column of spray roughly 50 feet high. Within half a minute, a wall of mist and foam completely swallowed the vessel, blinding infrared sensors and scattering laser targeting systems. It was a smokescreen built with real tactical intention, an attempt to blind the ship's eyes at the exact moment it needed them most. The response was to fuse everything into one picture. Data from the Poseidon overhead, the Seahawk still hovering nearby, and the ship's own radar merged into a single coordinated targeting solution. The destroyer's vertical launch system fired a salvo of SM-6 missiles, each worth roughly $4 million, aimed directly at the coastal launch positions that had exposed their location the moment they fired. Simultaneously, the ship's electronic warfare system directed a focused jamming beam at the Iranian coastal radar receivers, disrupting their ability to coordinate anything in real time. On the other end, Iranian operators watched their own screens dissolve into static, a small but telling reversal of the exact chaos they'd tried to inflict. Just as that threat started to settle, sonar picked up something new beneath the surface. Metallic signatures resting motionless on the seafloor rather than moving with the current. These were smart mines, magnetically triggered devices designed to detonate the instant a heavy steel hull passed overhead. The destroyer was suddenly caught between two dangers at once. Moving forward risked triggering the minefield. Reversing course put it directly in the path of a second wave of suicide boats, already closing at speeds near 30 knots, built specifically to ram the waterline. There's a particular kind of dread in that kind of decision, the sense that every option carries a cost. And it's worth asking honestly whether you believe any single ship's crew can talk their way out of a trap built with that much precision, or whether it comes down to pure firepower and nerve. While the destroyer worked through that dilemma, a separate response was already airborne. From a base in the United Arab Emirates, two A-10 Thunderbolt II aircraft launched under emergency orders. These aren't fast, sleek fighters. They were built decades ago for exactly this kind of slow, grinding, close-in fight, capable of holding steady at around 300 knots, low and controlled, using thermal targeting pods to pick out individual boats hidden in sea foam that a faster jet would blow right past. The pilots flew in low between limestone cliffs roughly 500 feet high, hugging the terrain to avoid early detection, eventually leveling out barely 30 meters above the swells, close enough that their engine wash kicked up spray on the water below. The Iranian crews heard them before they saw them, the distinct growl of the aircraft's engines arriving just seconds before the jets themselves. Shoulder-fired missiles and flares filed the sky as the pilots pulled 7 G-turns barely 20 meters off the water, dropping flares burning at around 1100 degrees Celsius to confuse incoming heat-seeking weapons. Then, the cannon opened up, the aircraft's signature Gatling gun firing roughly 65 30mm rounds every second, tearing through fiberglass hulls almost instantly. In under 4 minutes, the second wave of the swarm was gone, leaving the water dotted with burning wreckage and spreading oil slicks. With the mine threat and the boat swarm both still active, the destroyer's crew authorized a full electromagnetic assault, sweeping the surrounding area in a wide arc and effectively shutting down every signal in range. The Ababil decoys, stripped of their guidance links, dropped out of the sky. The remaining suicide boats, cut off from central coordination, began colliding with each other in the dark, their screens reduced to static and their radios carrying nothing but silence. As the electronic chaos cleared, the ship's close-in defense system took over what remained, its rotating cannon firing thousands of rounds per minute at anything that came within about 500 meters of the hull. From there, the Poseidon overhead pinpointed the exact source of the attack, rocket positions built into caves along the cliffs of Keshem Island, and relayed the coordinates to the waiting A-10 pilots. Laser-guided bombs followed the aircraft's designator beam directly into the cave entrances, and the resulting secondary explosions suggested fuel and ammunition stores going up along with the tunnels themselves, collapsing years of underground infrastructure in a matter of minutes. By the time the sun would have started to consider rising, the strait was open again. The destroyer had come through without a single casualty, having used a small fraction of its available ammunition. Iran had lost most of the fast boat fleet it committed to the operation, along with its coastal rocket batteries and years of work on that underground network, all traded away without achieving the one thing that mattered: actual control over the strait. There's something almost personal about watching a plan fail that completely, whether you're the one who built it or just someone watching from a distance. Iran had staked its best card, the credible threat of closing one of the world's most important waterways, and lost it for nothing tangible in return. Whether that failure pushes Tehran toward a quieter retreat or a more dangerous escalation next time is genuinely an open question. And it's fair to wonder which path you think a cornered regime is more likely to take when the alternative is admitting the gamble simply didn't work.